Yeah, so we're going to go through the Ravens real quick. In terms of changes on the offensive side of the ball, let's go ahead and look at the additions and subtractions from last season. Where is that real quick? The main thing that I want to talk about, Jabbo, and I think that we have to talk about is the offensive line. I mean, this is an offensive line that lost 3,000 plus snaps from last season. They lost John Simpson, they lost Kevin Zeitler, I believe, and they also lost Morgan Moses, who, I mean, we talked about him in the Jets preview show. He's been fantastic over the last 2 seasons. So this is a Ravens offensive line who, I got to be completely honest with you, I haven't been exactly enthralled with the last few seasons, and now they're losing 3 pivotal pieces to it. What do you think about that?
I mean, this is one of the biggest things I want to talk about today, actually. I think the Ravens are going to have a much worse season, and a big reason of that is because of this O-line. I mean, you saw it after Lamar's first MVP season. If you remember, after that season, he struggled. They lost a ton of offensive linemen. He got hurt. He struggled. Lamar Jackson does need somewhat of an offensive line, because if he's not going to stay healthy, I mean, then this season's a bust. But, I mean, that's just too many starting O-linemen. You're counting on too many young guys that have to step up. And maybe we're wrong. Maybe these young guys do step up, but that's just too many to count on, to be honest with you. And then, on top of that, with this O-line, you have Derrick Henry. He's 30 years old now. Are you going to get a running game from him? Is he going to stay healthy? You know that 30-year-old mark with running backs. I know Derrick Henry's is just a friggin' beast, but I really actually worry about this team. I think everyone else is just looking. Lamar, look how good they did last year. They're going to dominate. I think they're going to struggle mightily, to be honest with you, compared to last year. I mean.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like everybody's just expecting this team to just pick up right where they left off last year. I mean, they made it to the AFC Championship game. The offense was flowing. Todd Monken, his first year as OC, has Lamar Jackson in MVP form. I mean, this team has to only go further than that, right? I mean, Lamar Jackson has to get better. Listen, OBJ didn't put up the gaudiest stats last year, but he did make an impact in the offense as well, and now he's gone. Zay Flowers, I do like the kid. I think that he has real talent, but do you think that he's ready to be a real number 1 wide receiver in an offense? I don't exactly know about that. I don't know if he's ready to see those number 1 corners yet. And another thing that I really wanted to talk about as well is we were talking about the offensive line. They lost 3 offensive linemen, and Ronnie Stanley, he's a guy that has been so banged up the last 3 seasons. Look at last season. Ronnie Stanley had a career worst 4.1% blown block rate and a gross 6.9% pressure rate. He's played just 31 games since 2019. So if that offense now not only has no OBJ, so they're not taking away pressure from Zay Flowers, they're going to have worse blocking. They have Derrick Henry, who's an aging veteran. I just don't know what the hype is exactly. Is there a way that this offense takes a next step?
There's no way. There's literally no way. They have to take a step back, first of all. And like you said, I mean, Mark Andrews is obviously his main target, but to count on Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, and pretty much nobody, you have a thin O-line. You have 2 guys that you can really trust in the passing game. Like we said, a 30-year-old running back who, by the way, was splitting time with Tajay Spears last year in Tennessee. So it's not like we're talking about the Derrick Henry of old. And Tajay Spears, if you watch some of their games, he looked more explosive.
I love Tajay Spears.
Yeah, no, I do too. But I just don't see where this is gonna. I don't see where they're gonna consistently score, especially against teams with great D lines, great front sevens. I think Lamar's gonna have a tough year, staying healthy. I hope he does. You never wish injury, obviously, but I think it's gonna be a rough year for him. He's not the kind of guy who can just sit there in the pocket and deliver passes under pressure or things like that. So I'm with you. I think the offense is going to struggle.
They both just made really good points. It's not that I'm pro Ravens or anything, so it's not that I disagree with their points, but I think that you do have to at least mention that Lamar Jackson developed last year a lot as a passer. Maybe not getting the ball downfield much, but as far as the decision making and I feel like Lamar Jackson silenced a lot of haters as far as a passer, his accuracy, and I do understand your point, though. Without the offensive line, if the threat of the rushing attack isn't there, does his job as a passer become that much harder? I mean, it's a really good point. I don't disagree with anything you guys said. I was more not in disagreement. I was more listening to what you guys were saying, like kind of like opening my mind a little bit, like almost a little shocked, because I haven't really looked into the Ravens yet. So this is the first time I'm doing a dive into the Ravens, and I'm listening to you guys, and what you're saying makes sense. So I mean, I get it. Maybe there's a drop off from the Ravens offense, and there's definitely room for a drop off. This is one of the best offenses in football last year. They were first in rushing rank, third in passing rank, third in rushing EPA, sixth in passing EPA. This is a top 5 offense in basically every single metric. So there's definitely room for drop off. So okay.
And real quick to go with that, Todd Monken, he's a great offensive coordinator. So like you said, he really helped Lamar, get better as a passer. So there is some positives. I guess when I talk about them, I'm talking about them as everybody you listen to. They're like a Super Bowl contender. They're winning 12, 13 games. And they do have a good offensive coordinator. But yeah, I do think Lamar made strides, but I still don't. I don't see enough. He's not a guy with a bad O-line. We've seen it before. Like I said, after that first MVP season, he struggled the next year because he didn't have an O-line with Yonda retired and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, so I'm in agreement. Okay, I will concede that I expect the Ravens offense to drop off. Let's say instead of top 5, we're looking at maybe top 15, around in 13 to 17 range. Sounds like you guys could think it could even go lower. But let's say with the good OC, let's put them in 13 to 17. But then becomes the bigger question, and I'm going to mute my mic again and let these guys go at it here. It sounds like they might be in agreement, though, because they seem to be in lockstep with their thoughts on the offense. Defense loses Patrick Queen. Defense loses Mike Mack, who is Prop Beaver's favorite guy in the world. Prop Beaver loves Mike McDonald. Is the defense still elite without Patrick Queen and Mike McDonald at defensive coordinator? Go ahead, unmute my mic.
So I don't think it's elite, but I still think it's really good. Mike Mack, hopefully he turns my Seahawks around, by the way. Jesus, please. But their defensive coordinator's younger than me, so he can't do well, right? I mean, that's just – and seeing these coaches that are younger than me, it's making me really feel old. But listen, I mean, they lost Jadeveon Clowney too, 9.5 sacks last season. So their front seven's still good. You still got Kyle Van Noy. You got Roquan Smith up there. Matt Abuike, who just signed a huge deal. They still got guys, but I don't think they're elite, but I definitely think they're your, top 10 type of defense still. That's just my thought.
Yeah, so here's my thoughts on this defense. I am a big Mike McDonald guy. Kyle's absolutely right. When they hired him that first year out of Michigan, I'm going to be completely honest, I don't watch too much college football, so I didn't really know much about him heading in there, but he faced a lot of adversity that first season as a defensive coordinator with injuries, kind of like the same thing that Wink Martindale did. And you know what? Unlike Wink Martindale, he battled the storm and he did fantastic. And when they were able to acquire Roquan Smith, he made that defense what it is last season. He at least laid the foundation for what that defense was last season. And what was that defense last season? It was arguably one of the best defenses that we've seen in modern history. This was the first defense in the modern NFL to lead the league in scoring defense, sacks, and takeaways in the same season. On top of that, Justin Madubuike came out of nowhere. I mean, the guy had led the team in sacks. He had only combined for 8 sacks in his first 3 seasons in the league. Last year, he had 13 of those. Kyle Van Noy, I think, doubled his career sack total. He hit his career mark in sacks. Jadeveon Clown hit his career marks in sacks last year. About 3 of those guys hit their career marks in sacks, if not doubled it. I just think that there's a lot of regression coming for a lot of the edge rushers on this team. And then, as you mentioned, Jadeveon Clowney already left. You have Geno Stone, who left the team. As you mentioned, Patrick Queen left this team already. Mike McDonald, gone. I just feel like there's a lot of regression to be had for a team that was so dominant last year that it pains me to say, because, listen, I don't think there's nothing to not like about this Ravens team. Lamar Jackson, one of the most likable quarterbacks in the NFL. Harbaugh, what's not to like about that guy? Great guy. But listen, to be quite frank, I think there's value on this under at plus 100 in a tough division with a tough schedule. So I'm going to be taking that under here.
I definitely agree with you. Curious, and also I like Michael Pierce as kind of a run stuffer, but not only are they replacing Mike McDonald as a great coach, they're replacing him with a first-time coordinator. You know what I mean? This isn't just also a veteran guy coming in who knows how to handle the guys and everything. He's going to be as old as some of these players. It's not going to be easy. We've seen coordinators leave teams, and it makes a big difference. Ask the Eagles. after their Super Bowl run that they had. So it makes a big difference. But, they still got the talent in there. And John Harbaugh is so good that he's, he'll make sure everything's somewhat in order. But just curious your thoughts, Prop Beaver, on the secondary here with, Marlon Humphrey and these boys. What do you think of them?
One thing I gotta say, and I was reading this in the FTN notes last year. I want to go ahead. Let me see if I had copy and pasted this real quick. I'm gonna be mad at myself if I didn't. Damn it, I didn't. Marlon Humphrey was fantastic last year when he was on the field. I forget something about his DVOA marks. I mean, he was one of the best corners of football last year when he was on the field. He took some really big steps, and that's impressive because the 2 previous years, his seasons had been marred with injuries. So for him to go out there, and when he was on the field, again, another season marred with injuries, for him to go out there and really take that step and prove himself as a number 1 corner, that was really good for me to see. Am I in love with the secondary besides Humphrey? No, not exactly. But I do like Marcus Williams. I do think he's quite a good safety when he's on the field. But again, health. I feel like every year the theme with this Ravens defense, especially the secondary, has been, is this secondary healthy? I feel like they have missing corners almost every season. And last year was the exception, kind of, besides Humphrey. We'll see if that secondary is healthy again this season.
Yeah, and it's hard to stay healthy 2 years in a row, obviously. And I like Kyle Hamilton, too. I mean, safety's not their weakness. Yeah. That's for sure. Yeah, no, they're obviously great at safety. But, yeah, no, I think we're in lockstep on this team this year.
Mm-hmm. While you guys were talking, I'm peeking at the schedule here because I don't know if I'm as quick on the trigger here to bet under 10.5 with this team that looked like they could have won 17 last year. That being said, look at the beginning of that road schedule. Probably bring their schedule up.
1-4, baby.
Dude, I mean, I don't know. I think they beat Buffalo.
Maybe not 1-4, but yeah.
You could make an argument that they could be 1-4 in their first 5 road games.
Yeah.
At Kansas City, at Dallas, at Cincinnati, at Tampa Bay, at Cleveland. What? That is crazy. That's a crazy start to the schedule. Now, it does ease up a bit. You get Denver in there. You Pittsburgh. You know what? Pittsburgh is a tough matchup from them now because if you remember, the weakness of this Ravens defense last year was stopping the run. Now with Patrick Queen gone, Mike McDonald gone, I can't imagine they're going to get better against the run. So this should still be a defense that's vulnerable against the run again, because even last year they were vulnerable against the run when they were elite.
And how about the Steelers pass rush on the Ravens now? With that weak O line. Yeah, it's a tough matchup.
Yeah, they could lose that game in Pittsburgh. They'll probably lose one of them against Pittsburgh. I mean, yeah, looking at this schedule, it's hard to find 11 wins to hang your hat on. Wow. I can't believe.
Go ahead.
It looks like under 10.5 is the move.
Yeah, they are good at home. Under Harbaugh, by the way, 97-40 at home. It is tough to win in Baltimore. But in this division, I don't know what you guys think is going to happen in this division because I just kind of assume 3-3 for everybody because I don't know. Any of these teams could come out of the AFC North. Right now, the Ravens are such a huge favorite, or not a huge favorite. They're favorites with the Bengals to win the division. But, I mean, there's no value whatsoever in the Ravens, I think, to win this division because anybody can win it. So,
yeah. So we all are leaning towards Ravens under 10.5 wins. Prop Beaver switches over to Cincinnati. Bengals up next.
This is my boy.
This is your boy? Who's your boy?
Joe Cool, baby.
Joe Cool's your boy? You refer to him as your boy?
He's my boy. Yeah, no, we go way back. We have a connection.
All right, so Cincinnati's up next.